Welcome everyone to Unscripted Coding. Today we're going to check out Gemini CLI, which comes from Google. It was announced just a few days ago, but it is Google's latest AI agent meant for programming. It's going to compete with Claude Code, RoboDev, and other command line interface-based AI agents. In this video, what I'm going to do is, one, tell you what it is in case you're not already familiar with Claude Code. Two, I'm going to show you how to set it up, which is actually quite a bit easier than Claude Code or RoboDev. And three, because we'll have a bit more time in this video, I'm going to run it on an actual project and show you the results and also compare it very quickly to RoboDev on a simple project. It's not by any means scientific, but so you could see side by side. So let's start with the first question. What is Gemini CLI? Now, if you've seen Claude Code or one of our recent videos on RoboDev, you'll know that this is a command line interface piece of software. So right here, you'll see it's running terminal, but you could think PowerShell, command line, command prompt. You have that white text on black background programmer kind of thing. And what you're going to do is navigate to the right folder on your computer, whether it's empty or filled with files, and you're going to be able to ask it questions in regular English. This is different than chat-gpt, where you might just give it 10, maybe 20 lines of code and say, can you write this function or fix this function for me? Instead, you're going to go to the folder and ask it, generally, can you fix any bugs you see? Generally, can you change the design language entirely? You're going to give much broader requests, and Gemini CLI is going to pick up a model. They're going to go look at the file names of each of your files, pick out what's interesting, read the code, do some thinking, then come up with a plan, then go back and make fixes and tests. So it's going to make many commands just like an agent would to try and accommodate your requests. Now, because your requests are usually pretty broad, you can be very specific, but let's say you're doing something broad, Gemini has a lot more autonomy to go about how it wants to do it and how it's going to achieve the objectives. So in short, it's kind of like sending an intern at it. These are not going to replace seasoned developers, not yet. And frankly, they're not even going to replace good interns. But you could think about it as a bad intern where you can offload some basic mundane tasks. It might come up with errors, but you can ask it to go about it again, give it a bit more guidance. And usually for simple questions, it should be fine. So we do have competitors. Claude Code consistently comes up as really good. And I was actually quite surprised with RoboDev. I've enjoyed using it. So it will be interesting to see how Gemini CLI stacks up, because Google Gemini Pro as an LLM model has gotten better and better and better at programming, especially in the last 2 months. So that is Gemini CLI. Now, of course, our next task is how do we actually run it? I'll point out the limitations in the others so far. Claude Code is a pain to run on Windows. It's really meant for Linux and Mac. RoboDev has just very poor documentation. So if you do want to check it out, it's not hard to run, but you probably want to follow a video like the one I did recently instead. Here, what you need is just to install Node.js version 18 or higher. So if you want, you could pick any kind of ecosystem and you could choose how you want to install it. Just pick one that works, and you can download the installer and get it all done. Now, I've already installed Node.js. I think many programmers would already have it on their system. So all you need to do is go into one of your command line interfaces and copy and run and then authenticate. So let me find my command prompt here. And here it is. I'll zoom in a little. And I am going to paste this first one here. So npm install Google Gemini. We'll come back in a second. About a minute later, you're going to see that things are all installed. So from there, the next step, according to the GitHub page, is just to run the Gemini command. You can pick a color theme and authenticate with your Google account. So I just want to take a look here. Atom 1 looks kind of familiar to me from the Visual Studio Code. Oh, GitHub looks pretty good too. I'm going to go with Atom 1. Of course, you can choose whichever one you want. So we can use Google, Gemini API key, or Vertex. Now, I am going to use Google, but of course, the other options are available for you. So I suspect it's going to pull up a link soon. Okay, so a bunch of legalese for you to answer, and then finally we can see that we can start typing. I'm realizing that we want to cd to the right project file, so I'm going to prepare this for a sec here. Okay, so that took a moment. I needed to set up all the folders we wanted to experiment with. But here, you can cd to different folders. And here, I'm trying to get to my desktop. You'll see that starts already in the right user. And that took me a moment to figure out. It is not obvious from the documentation, but you'll notice that when you said cd, it doesn't, they're not asking for the drive letter. And so that clued me in that we had to figure out where things are. Here, I have created two folders, one for Gemini, but I've also ensured that we have a RoboDev comparison ready to go. So let's quickly show you what we're dealing with here. This is a project that I have had Google Labs, Jules, set up for me. Incredibly messy, not ideal, but many different files as well. So you can see there's a JavaScript folder, there's styles, tools, different file types, so lots of different things for somebody to try and look and understand. How this actually looks is something like this. You don't need to see too much about it, but it is a practice question. So you look at this and maybe you think the answer is C, submit answer, it's wrong, there's a sidebar to do different things. What I wanted to do is see what happens if I try and ask it to change the style. And so here I'm going to ask Gemini, can you add a dark mode to this web app? And in parallel, I'm going to ask the exact same thing from RoboDev, which is Atlassian solution. Can you add a dark mode to this web app? And click enter. Here you'll see that Gemini is going to read different things, look at the 17 items, which are the file names, I think. It's going to go in and look at index.html. It's going to add a CSS. And so it's kind of given us a plan. Find it interesting that it's going ahead already, whereas with RoboDev, it's going to ask permission along the way. to make files, edit files. Oh, I guess it did ask permission. I just didn't recognize it. So apply this change. Yes, allow once. I'm just saying myself, I'm going to allow for the session. And once. This is going to take a moment, so I'm going to let us skip through here. The moment of truth now. I have my suspicions here. Gemini worked really, really fast. Probably a minute in. Even though it's 2.5 Pro, I have to wonder what it's doing because it didn't make all that many changes given how complex and painful this file is. On the other hand, RoboDev spent a lot of time trying to get this working. It probably took 5 or 6 minutes in total, and you can see it used a lot of tokens here. 2.2 million, I think, in total, although maybe not. But it was substantially longer than Gemini, and so I have two different files here. This is going to be Gemini, and so I'm going to refresh here, and I'm going to refresh for RoboDev. So this is nice. It's functional. And here, if we turn on dark mode, it's not working. So let's take a look at the developer tools here. Nothing's really telling us why it's not working. So not a success. Surprising to me, it looked like there was a lot of effort, and you can see there's a dark mode button. On the other hand, for Gemini, it seems that it broke the app. So that's definitely worse. Neither of these, as I said, are magic, but one is far worse than the other in that it has been broken. Now, normally I would continue and I would pass this on, maybe spend a half hour trying to build it out, and generally it's still a time savings. But you can see, number one, Gemini was a lot easier to work with, a lot easier to install, but the results leave something to be desired. I think it is a matter of bringing it up in speed because Gemini has gotten so much better in programming, but Claude Code has had a lot of time to try and ramp up. And as far as I can tell, RoboDev, yeah, it talks about using different models, but it looks like it's using Claude. It looks very similar to Claude. So I suspect it's taking a lot of those lessons from Claude, whereas Google just has to play a bit of catch up here. Anyways, do try it out. I've always enjoyed using Gemini. Well, I've enjoyed using Gemini for the last several months now in programming, so I suspect I'll be keeping this installed, especially because there is a very generous free tier to work with. Thanks for watching, and I hope you're going to play around with all of this. Bye.